Welcome back to Lenz Doctor Who review, episode number 43. This one we're moving from 1974 and we're jumping ahead about 4 years later. Now, I originally planned Invasion of Time, but that's a sequel story. So I decided to pass on and do the very next one I had in my stack, which was The Stones of Blood. Two fun factors with this one. Number one, we are at the halfway point of the Key to Time story arc. And number two, it is the 100th story of Doctor Who. Really? Yep, really. Unlike the last two segments where Doctor went to planets, this one goes to Earth to find the third segment of time. Yes. Now this story is only 4 episodes, just like the first two were. Now, we do get the start basically of Doctor getting a warning, where it's like, beware the Black Guardian, which I believe is the first time the name's been mentioned since the first episode. The Rebus operation. Now, the Black Guardian himself would not physically appear into the final story of this thing, the Armageddon Fact, as his debut. And when I get to the Black Guardian trilogy, when I'm going to be talking about it because I haven't, where there's a fun fact about the actor who plays it, which I'll get to that eventually. So, there's also this weird thing happening here where it seems like we stumbled across a different type of show where we have a attempted sacrifice this show. We have this guy with a mustache, looks like it was druids, and they're sacrificing thing at a place that looks like Stonehenge. Except they don't identify this place as Stonehenge, despite the fact it kind of looks like it, but it really isn't. So then we see the Doctor Romana arrive on Earth, and of course Romana got basically Earth-style outfits. She even got high heels on. Yes, high heels. Now, they go out, and of course they take the sensor. K9, of course, on standby, though he does play a role this episode, which, unlike the first two, he does play a really big role. This one, he kind of does. Yes. So, they get to this stone area, and they meet, well, they're looking around for it, and Romana meets two people. Vivian Faye, who comes a little after the first woman. Her name is Professor Rumford. Yep. Who was an archaeologist. Now, this actress, I don't think is still alive. No, sadly, this is a bit of a shocker. The actress passed away a year after the story came out. She was 75 years old. As in the case of the actress Vivian Faye, which is Susan Egel. I looked up how old she is. Now, she was born in 1935. She's still very much alive, by the way. She must have been, based upon her appearance, she must have been in her early 40s. And I was correct about that. Yes, we have a woman in her early 40s who is playing this character. I'm sure maybe the people who cast this episode maybe want to get maybe they want a slightly younger actress. But no, they got a woman in her early 40s. Who at the time didn't look bad for her age at all. Not really. So they basically do a survey of the place. Of course, they think the Doctor is. And then, of course, Doctor talk some druids, which, of course, meet the leader of the druids. And his name is Deveris, the actor, his first name in the later story. Yes. Where he just barges into his home, Doctor does, and Deveris has apparently no problem because he's talking about, well, portraits. He mentions 3 being cleaned, though we find out exactly who these pictures are of a little bit later. We actually don't find out until episode 3 of this, at least not until the start of episode 3. That's when we find out who the heck those pictures were. Of course, I guess, oh yeah, they're being cleaned. Yeah, so then he sees someone dressed up as a crow, and I think it's knocked. It looks like it's about to be sacrificed. And look how Rumford basically just happens to come by on her bicycle. Yes, her bicycle. You would think a woman in her mid-70s probably would drive a car, but no, probably because she probably can't afford a car, so she was bicycle. And everyone gets spooked away by a bicycle. Yes, not a motorcycle, not a car, a bicycle with a light. And you're thinking, really? Druids get frightened by a bicycle. Seems kind of silly. As for Romana, well, she gets supposedly here as a doctor, falls off a cliff, and of course she's accused the doctor of possibly trying to kill her, and it turns out basically it wasn't him. Just his image. This, I don't think it's fallen up here. It's like somebody you could say Vivian herself, because she's actually the main villain of the story. Yes. I'll get some more to her, so, of how the heck she's the main villain, so I think about, oh, it's actually Vivian, because she's a goddess. I'm thinking, really? We have a woman who's 43 years old and playing a goddess. I'm like, okay, fine. If you want to cast like if you want basically like, well, they do mention later on some interesting stuff about her. So then she disappears into hyperspace. Yes, into hyperspace. Yep. Then of course, basically, the Doctor breaks the device. Of course, she takes Romana there too to take herself into hyperspace. There's also mentioned the fact he may know Albert Einstein because of the whole thing with hyperspace. Now you have an archaeologist working with a scientist trying to make a device to help with hyperspace. And also in the story, there's also a thing here where the stones are in fact alive. Yes. And here's the thing. They have a craving for blood. Yes. The one managed to get destroyed because eventually it was 3 of these damn things. Another one gets destroyed by something we'll counter in a little bit. So Doctor managed to get into hyperspace. And you think, does he just wander out? No, he ends up on a spaceship. Which for some reason is above where the stone formation is, which is interesting. Now you're probably thinking, how the heck did this spaceship get here? That is explained in the story of how the heck it got here. Oh yeah, and Vivian, when she's in hyperspace, she can turn silver and wear this very sexy dress that she's wearing. Yes, dress with some cleavage. I still keep thinking they should have got an actress who was about 5 years younger. Yeah, that's just my opinion. Nothing against the actors. I think the actress does a great job playing the character. I'm just thinking, if you want basically from an adult male perspective, I would have basically got a woman who was a little bit younger than this woman is. I would say probably almost 10 years younger. So, yeah, and then the Doctor just goes to these cells. And here's a little strange thing. There's an Easter egg from Ark of Space in here. You're thinking, really? The Ark in Space. One of the most weirdest Doctor stories during... Well, actually, one of the most strangest ones, and probably the best thing about that story, aside from the story itself, is the suspense is really good. The only thing bad about it is the special effects. Excuse me. Yeah. And so apparently the centipede alien who popped up in that one appears here. I should point out, though, the Ark in Space, which, by the way, was the third story for Tom Baker, actually was the second one. That only aired just 3 years part of the story, which is interesting, the fact they actually brought these creatures in. Yeah, my guess is probably that they probably had that thing just lying around-ish. Yeah, so they probably had lying around and just, hey, throw one of the cells. And not to come across this to seal with you break it. And that brings about toward the end of the story, where the people who he freed, he gets sentenced to be executed. And of course they try to have his apples because basically he wants to do some other stuff. No, I'm just getting tired. And the story's not boring, it just makes me a little tired. So, yeah, so basically they had this trial, like they really quickly, and of course Doctor has an appeal, and calls Ron to the stand. Basically, everything is all true. He refers to her by her real name, like a full name. And here's the thing. First time she ever referred to by this since the first episode. And you might be thinking, is she ever referred to by this name throughout the whole rest of her tenure on Doctor Who? Not that I can think of, no. Yeah. Oh, and here's something, though. The actress who plays her, she's only in 3 more stories. No, I'm not kidding about that. 3 more stories, and that's it. Yeah. And then she leaves the show. Yeah, it's something of the fact that she actually left. Maybe in the last feature, basically, I might get a chance to explain why the heck she left. Maybe she got married. Possibly. Excuse me. Maybe she didn't like the story itself. It is possible. But who knows exactly what comes to this one. Yeah, so let's put it. So they basically find out that and the reason why they're actually there, looking for a criminal who stole something, and yeah, it's obviously that Vivian is the one basically responsible. Like, oh, I'm Vivian Faye. I've lived here for years. Yeah, and then of course, if I remember, he's like, yep, this is the person I'm looking for. Because apparently, when they were sent to arrest her, they were given no description of her. I'm like, that's not good law. That's not good at all. They just basically arresting some random person. So then after she's found out, and of course her other creature is like sent back to his planet. The other one survived. The second one is killed. And of course Doctor takes her necklace, which is something she stole, by the way. It turns out that's actually the third case taking time. And her punishment for all of her crimes is to be turned into a statue. Actually turned into a rock. Yes. Turned into a rock. Oh, and also she apparently doesn't like certain stuff that's basically not part of her metabolism. Yeah, it was obvious the fact, based on the description, he was an alien. Yep. Anything else with the story? It's actually still a pretty good story what it is. It just felt as though this one... By the way, the whole Druids thing, that's pretty much basically kibosh like halfway through the story when the 2 kind of supporting villains are killed off in the story by the boss, which is interesting. Yes. I kind of seemed as though this one should have been at least about... You watch this thing, it seems like basically that they were planning to do more, but they basically decided not to do that. Yes. Excuse me. How many episodes do I think the thing should have had? I'd say, based on the story, you could at least squeeze in one more. Yes, but I'm sure they probably want to include a sci-fi element here, because we got this sort of semi-supernatural stuff and this druid stuff. This probably got maybe some people got to change. So it kind of they figured as though that the whole thing of like the alien stuff, that felt like maybe like a rewrite. I mean, from my perspective, anyways. By the way, the guy who wrote this, his name is David Fisher. Yep. He's the one who wrote this thing. By the way, Douglas Adams wrote the last one. Yes, Douglas Adams, the guy who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now you're probably thinking, how many stories were for this one? Well, after the story, he would actually write pretty much basically the following story. He also did Creature from the Pit, which is from another season. Well, in the case of Honor herself, like, you probably would think, like, okay, how many more stories have to go for her, per se? Well, the only ones officially I got done for her have been the first three stories of this season and Designated Alex. That's it. That's all I've gotten done so far. Like, roughly about four stories out of, like, um, I don't know. Depends on exactly what we got here. Yep. But yeah, that's particular. Oh, by the way, the one thing I should also point out though, it seems as though with this particular way the camera shoots, Mary Tim, it seems like she's slightly aged a bit. I mean, the actress herself was looking at the time; she's a very lovely woman. But it seems like this one, it seems like she aged a few years. But based on the camera shoots her neck, it just looks kind of odd. Yep. And if you're curious though, how old was Mary Tim when she did this part? When she was in the series, she was 28 when she was in the series. Yes, 20 years old and left after one season. Her replacement, Leela Ward, was came on 79. She was roughly about 29 years old, basically by a year younger. But yeah, that's particularly a particular view. Oh, by the way, in case you're curious, how many more stories have to go with the original Romana? There are about three more left. Yep, three more left. But yeah, that's particularly it, particular view. Stay tuned for tomorrow for, well, it may not be a Doctor Who review tomorrow, but I'm hopefully get a chance to do two comic corners and maybe a review for Doctor Stone. Okay, thanks for you. Bye.